Welcome back to another episode of SmoothBrainEDH. Now before you go skipping to the gameplay, please listen to me real quick. I just want to let you know there is very important information regarding the state of the channel at the end of the video. That's all, let's see what people are playing. First up is Sam on Sergeant John Benton. This is an in-response deck. It plays 28 instants. It wants to connect with John Benton and then just pass the turn. Up next is Caden on Omnath. This 4-color deck is a Guild Gates deck. Its main win con is Maze's End, but it has other win cons in there too. Next is Jason on Muerra, Trash Tactician. This deck is all about getting a ton of mana and then casting huge things from in and out of exile. And last but not least, we have Chandler on Hashaton. This deck is all about discarding big creatures to get them back as 4/4 zombies. And last time this deck got played, it got steamrolled. Some of you guys said you wanted to see it again, so here it is. Alright, we're about to go into the video, but before that, let us know who you think is going to win down in the comments below. While you're down there, be sure to check out all of our links. Huge shout out to all of our YouTube channel members, I love you very much. And if you're ever buying anything from Dragon Shield, consider using our code SMOOTH5 at checkout for 5% off your entire order. Now, on to the gameplay. It looks like Chandler wins the die roll. We'll start off with Rafine's Tower and he'll pass to Jason. Jason plays Spire Garden into Soul Ring. Sam plays Command Tower into Wild Growth. And Caden will play Prismatic Vista, fetch for a Snow Forest, then cast Open the Gates. He declares he's going to get a Simic Guild Gate and he'll pass to Chandler while searching. Who will just play an island, then cast his Felwar Stone and pass. And Jason will cast a Kodama's Reach, and this will get him a tapped mountain and a forest to hand, then he'll play the forest as land for turn, and then enchant it with a Utopia Sprawl naming green. And then he'll pass. Sam will play a Plains, and then cast Azusa, Lost But Seeking. Then he'll play Prismatic Vista and a Rogue's Passage. He'll then fetch for a forest and cast Arcane Signet, then pass. Caden starts his turn off by shocking in a Temple Garden, then he'll cast his Soul Ring, and then he'll cast Springheart Nantuko and pass. Chandler begins with Bleach Bone Verge, then he'll cast Dimir Signet, and then he'll cast Hashaton and pass the turn to Jason, who will just cast Muerra, then play Verdant Catacombs and pass to Sam. Sam joins in on the casting commander train by casting Sergeant John Benton. Then he'll move to combat and hit Caden for 2 commander, and they both draw 2 cards. Post-combat, Sam will play a Hushwood Verge and a Horizon Canopy. Then he'll pass the turn to Caden, who starts off with Nissa, Resurgent Animist. He'll then play a Gond Gate and float a blue and make a bug. Then he'll cast Fabricate, and this tutors him a Crucible of Worlds to his hand. Then he'll pass the turn to Chandler. He's going to start off with a Deserted Beach, and then he'll cast a pair of Lightning Greaves. He'll then follow this up with Rona, Herald of Invasion, then equip her with the Greaves, and then pass to Jason. On instep, Jason will fetch for a Commercial District, and he'll surveil a Sundering Eruption to the graveyard. Then we'll move to his turn. He gets 1 mana, and then he'll Chaos Warp on Azusa, because Sam is not allowed to have extra cards and extra lands. And after a shuffle, Sam reveals Teferi's Protection, and the rest of the table is thankful for that knowledge. After this, Jason will play an Arena of Glory and cast Disciple of Freyalise. He has 2 expend triggers. First one will gain him 3 life, and then Muerra will exile him an Arbor Elf and a Great Henge. And now that he knows that he can cast a Great Henge next turn, when the Disciple resolves, he decides to not sacrifice anything. So he'll now pass the turn, but Sam will stop on instep, sacrifice his Canopy, and draw a card. Then we'll move to his turn, where the first thing he'll do is hit Caden for another 2 commander, and they both draw 2 more cards. He'll then play a tapped Temple Garden, and then just pass the turn. And Caden will begin his turn by jamming the Crucible of Worlds. He'll then play the Prismatic Vista from his graveyard, then he'll get a bug and a blue mana, then he'll fetch for a basic island, and this gets him another bug, and since this is Nissa's second ability, he'll get another blue mana, and then reveal Rada from the top of his library. After this, he'll cast Guild Summit, and when it ETBs, he'll tap his Gond Gate to draw a card. Then he'll cast a Burgeoning and pass the turn and discard a Snow Mountain on cleanup. Chandler did want to do something on instep, but he didn't get a chance to, so they let him do it anyway. He'll just activate Rona to draw and discard a Plains. Then he'll move to his turn, where he'll draw and discard Archon of Cruelty, and he absolutely pays the 3 mana to Hashaton's ability, so he gets a tapped copy of it that is a 4/4 zombie. There is a trigger from the Archon of Cruelty, and TBH, Chandler needs to be way meaner when he plays. He does not like making feels bad situations, because he could absolutely ruin Sam or Jason's game plan, but instead he targets Caden, because he has the most cards in hand and can just sacrifice a bug. So yeah, that's what happens. Caden will sacrifice a bug and discard a Simic Guild Gate and lose 3, then Chandler will gain 3 and draw a card. He'll then play a Flooded Strand as land for turn, Burgeoning puts in Selesnya Guild Gate, and Caden draws a card. Then Chandler plays Talisman of Progress, then move the Greaves over to Archon of Cruelty, and then pass to Jason. Jason gets 1 mana, and then he'll cast the Great Henge for 6 mana, and he'll also gain 3 life. He'll then activate it to float 2 mana and gain 2 more life, and then cast the Arbor Elf from exile. Sam has a response though. He says, Great Henge not allowed. You know what, neither is Crucible of Worlds. Here's Force of Vigor. He'll destroy them both. So they're both gone, and Jason's not happy, so he slams Blasphemous Act for 1 mana. And that is the 8th mana he spent this turn. So before it resolves, Muerra exiles him a Nature's Lore and a Trail Tracker Scout. Then the board is wiped. He'll then play Exotic Orchard and pass the turn to Sam, who will just recast John Benton. And this time, 2 Commander is swung over at Chandler. It'll connect and they both draw 2. Then, post-combat, Sam plays a Plains and passes to Caden, who's going to start off with a Boros Guildgate. He'll draw a card on ETB, then he'll cast Omnath, Locust of Mana, and draw another card on ETB. Then he'll cast Arcane Signet, and then a Farseek. He says he's going to get Commercial District and Surveil stays on top. While he's in his library, Chandler's going to go ahead and fetch with his Flooded Strand for a Meticulous Archive, and Chandler's Surveil puts Vault of Champions in the graveyard. And then Caden will pass the turn to Chandler, where he'll play a Swamp, recast Hashaton, and then grieve him up. He'll then follow this up with Talisman of Dominance, and then Unfulfilled Desires, and then he'll pass the turn. Jason will start his turn off with Trail Tracker Scout. Then he'll recast Muerra, and then the Nature's Lore, and both expend abilities will trigger. First one will get Great Henge back to his hand. Then the 2 cards he can play till the end of his next turn are Flaming Tyrannosaurus and Jessica's Will. Then the Nature's Lore will get him an untapped Stomping Ground, then he'll play a Mountain as land for turn and cast Wandertail Mentor, and then pass. Sam will start his turn off by moving to combat and hitting Chandler for 2, and they'll both draw 2. After this, Sam will cast a Summer's Bloom, extra land drops time. So he plays a Bountiful Promenade, an Overgrown Farmland, a Brushland, and that's all the lands he's got. And I guess all the spells he's got for now too, because he'll pass to Caden, who will start off with a Hedge Maze. Surveil stays on top, then he'll cast Nature's Lore. This will get an untapped Breeding Pool, and he'll float 4 mana. He'll use the Simic from it to cast Thrasios, and then he's got 2 more floating, so he'll float 2 more to activate Thrasios. This puts Citadel Gate on the field. He'll draw a card and name Blue from it. Then he'll move to combat and hit Sam for 4. Post-combat, he'll cast the Rada and then pass to Chandler, who stops on end step to activate Unfulfilled Dreams. He'll draw and discard an island and then move to his turn, where he'll do it again, and this time he'll discard a Karmic Guide, which triggers Hashaton, and he'll pay the 3 mana. When it ETBs, it returns Karmic Guide, which then returns Archon of Cruelty, which will target Jason. The card that Jason discards is a land, and I guess the card that Chandler drew is a creature because he's going to activate his Unfulfilled Dreams again. And this time he discards and makes a token copy of Archfiend of Ifnir. And apologies for the graveyard, he will move that back into frame soon. He'll then play a basic Plains and then pass the turn. Jason gets 2 mana and then he'll cast Flaming Tyrannosaurus. He'll exert his Arena of Glory as well, and that does not count towards expend because expend specifically says spend mana on spells. So he's only expended 7, so he'll just gain 3 life. After this, Jason will cast Jessica's Will. He gets to choose both modes and he'll target Sam. Cast triggers as well. Expend will exile him 2 more cards. He'll then return the Wander Trail to his hand, and then Flaming Tyrannosaurus will get a counter and then bolt the Karmic Guide. Then in response to the Jessica's Will, Sam will respond with a Path of Exile on Archon of Cruelty, so now Jason will only get 5 red mana from this, and Chandler also gets a basic. Also, forgot to mention, Muerra's 2 exiles were 2 lands. Anyways, let's see what Jessica's Will exiles. Turn Timber Symbiosis, Inspired Tinkering, and Carpelian Forest. And Jason will keep it going with Inspired Tinkering. Flaming Tyrannosaurus trigger will bolt Thrasios, and Caden will respond by activating Thrasios. He'll scry 1 and it stays on top, and it'll reveal a counterspell. Since it is not a land, he gets to draw it. Anyways, the Tinkering will resolve. Jason creates 3 treasures, and exiles Masked Vandal, Ignite the Future, and Lightning Greaves. And now that his T-Rex is big, he's able to cast a 2 mana Great Henge, which he'll use to cast Masked Vandal. Sam has a response and stays on the no Great Henge train, and he'll Nature's Claim it. Jason then remembers his Flaming Tyrannosaurus trigger, and he'll target Chandler's Archfiend. And Chandler would really like to keep his Archfiend around, so he's going to respond with a Bitter Triumph, additional cost discarding a land, and he'll destroy the Flaming Tyrannosaurus. There's also an Archfiend trigger that goes on the stack, and it'll put a -1/-1 counter on each of his opponent's creatures. The T-Rex then dies, and each of Jason's opponents takes 6 damage. The Masked Vandal will then finally resolve. On ETB, it'll exile Arbor Elf to exile Chandler's Unfulfilled Desires. And Chandler will respond by activating it twice to draw 2 and discard 2. And discards are a land and a Thought Vessel, and then opponent's creatures get more minus counters. Jason will tap his Trail Tracker Scout for a mana, and then the Unfulfilled Desires is exiled. Jason then plays a Carpelian Forest as land for turn, and then he'll cast Ignite the Future. Tribute to the World Tree, Sakura Tribe-Elder, and Temur Sabertooth are exiled. He'll then pass the turn, but Sam will stop on instep to cast Paradise Lost. He'll roll 2d6 and get an 8. That is actually exactly enough to get everything in his graveyard back to his hand. Then, still on instep, he will path to exile his own John Benton and get a basic. We'll then move to his turn where John Benton is recast, and then we'll follow him up with an Esper Sentinel. Sam then hits Chandler for another 2, and they both draw 2. He'll then recast Summer Bloom after combat, which will let him play Prismatic Vista and Horizon Canopy again. Then he'll cast Birds of Paradise, and then pass the turn to Caden, who starts off with a Bright Glass Gear Hulk. And when it hits the field, it'll tutor him an Amulet of Vigor and Elvish Reclaimer to his hand. He'll then tap his Soul Ring for 2 to cast the Amulet of Vigor, and Sam asks, "Do you pay the 1?" Caden says, "I won't if you kill the Archfiend of Ifnir," and Sam says, "Oh, okay, Stroke of Midnight." So it's gone. Chandler gets a 1/1, Sam draws his card, and then Caden will cast his Elvish Reclaimer. And then the turn is passed to Chandler. He'll start off by casting Kiora the Rising Tide. So he'll draw 2 and discard 2, and one of those is Nezahal. Would you believe me if I told you he pays the 3 to Hashaton's triggered ability? And then he'll follow it up with a Zombie Master. After this, he'll equip Lightning Greaves to Kiora, and then move to combat and swing her over at Jason. He 1000% has Threshold, so he gets to make an 8/8 Octopus. And Jason will take the 3 damage. He'll then pass the turn and go try to find some token that can represent the Octopus. I think he gets a tentacle. Anyways, now on Jason's turn, he'll get 2 mana and then Flashback Ignite the Future. That is 8 mana, so he immediately expends 8. He does not pay the 1 to Sam, and Chandler will also draw a card. Then he'll gain 3, and the top 2 cards he exiles are Fanatic of Veronis and Sylvan Library. And unfortunately, his Ignite the Future hits aren't great. It's a land, Green Sun Zenith, and Balaged Recovery. The Balaged will get back Blasphemous Act. And when it does, Chandler draws another card. He'll then cast Tribute to the World Tree, Chandler draws, and then Jason casts Temur Sabertooth, and he'll draw. And then he'll just pass the turn. Sam's going to start off with an Imperial Plate. Chandler draws, and John puts it on. He'll then play Demolition Field as land for turn, and then swing for 9 at Jason, who takes it. He and Sam both draw 9 cards. Then Sam will cast a Thought Vessel. Chandler draws, and then Sam will cast Balaged Recovery to get back Summer Bloom. Chandler draws again. Summer Bloom is cast, Chandler draws, then Sam will play a Reliquary Tower. And then the turn is passed to Caden, who immediately activates Elvish Reclaimer. He'll float a green and sacrifice his Snow Forest. This will get him Field of the Dead, and he'll get a zombie. Then after this, Caden will float all of his mana and cast a Scapeshift. Chandler draws a card. And before it resolves, Caden realizes, oh wait, I can just get up to 9 gates and go get Maze's End and win the game. So that's exactly what he does. He sacrifices everything that's not a gate, and then he'll go get up to 9 gates and a Maze's End, and all the gates will enter untapped, but the Maze's End doesn't, so an Amulet of Vigor trigger goes on the stack to untap it, and Sam will respond by Demolition Fielding the Maze's End. So it's destroyed, and they'll both get a basic. But Caden's not done yet. He'll cast a Conduit of Worlds. At this point, Sam realizes he could use Force of Vigor to get rid of the Amulet of Vigor, but he knows Caden has the counterspell, and he asks around the table, and neither Jason nor Chandler can do anything to help him. So Sam will then just let the Conduit resolve. Caden will play the Maze's End, it'll untap, and then he'll activate it. This returns the Maze's End to his hand, and Caden will play Baldur's Gate and win the game. Congratulations. Alright gang, welcome to the end of the video, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. Let's get right into that news. It is with a very heavy heart that I must announce the end of SmoothBrainEDH. What you just watched was our second to last video ever. Next weekend is going to be our last gameplay video. And there's 2 main reasons that we as a group have come to this conclusion. First off, everybody just got really busy. When we first started this channel, it was in the middle of the pandemic, and it seemed like everybody just had infinite time to commit to it. But since then, people have graduated college, gotten jobs, and moved away, and it's become a real strain to keep pumping out content. And secondly, we're really not happy with the direction Magic is going right now. And I'm sure you've all heard this narrative online way too much, so I won't go too into it. We're getting a crazy amount of whiplash from the amount of new and out-of-universe content that's constantly coming out. So with both of those reasons in mind, all of us decided that now is a great time to put the channel to rest. It's been a great run, 5 years, and we're extremely thankful for all the support all of you have given us. But we thought we'd just let you guys know ahead of time before just cutting it off suddenly. Hey, again, thank you all so much. I hope you have a smooth day.